Hello, hello. Welcome to the first ever Zeke and Dak Random Chat podcast with yours truly, David Zeke Malera, and your boy,
Dakota
Reed.
All
right, well, here we go. So for anyone who is new to this experience, what we do is we have a randomizer that we found on the Google, and it just randomly gives us a topic. And then from there, me and Dak do a little bit of research, but it's very, very brief research. It's timed, 7 minutes. 7 minutes of heaven. 7 minutes in heaven, whatever you want to call it. 7 minutes of trying to study whatever topic we're given. And then from there, we move on and discuss our topic with each other, kind of get each other's insight and ideas on the matter. Isn't that right, Dak?
Yes, sir.
And what is our topic, our first ever topic of this pilot podcast project?
The first topic of the podcast project, whatever, was tea. That was one word. Yeah, that's all we got. So we did some extensive 7-minute research on tea. And I was finished writing my third line when I saw we had 5 minutes left, so it was pretty.
It's quite the grind.
So
what we do, we'll have our research. We'll have like a personal, in-depth story about it, and we'll just have fun, vibe, and we'll see where it goes from here. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy our debut podcast episode. All right, Dak, tea? Let's get your first thoughts on tea. Like, I want to know what tea is to you.
Well, there is as per recommended by our boy Cody. I don't remember what it was called, but it has something to do with nuts.
Something with nuts. Of course, Cody wants something with nuts in his mouth, right?
Yeah.
So he gives us this nutty tea. It's my first time trying it, so let's see. Let's give it a shot. What do you think about it right now?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's got like a little bit of like a nut aftertaste.
It sure does. Yeah, I like it. So our boy Cody recommended putting it with like creamer and sugar. Me and Dak are mad, so we just went black. Yeah. And I think it's good.
I like it.
I enjoy it too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, okay, history with tea. What's your history with tea?
So my history with tea, I wasn't allowed to drink coffee when I was younger, so my mom would make me tea. I didn't really like it because she always had like Earl Grey, and I didn't like that when I was a kid. But now, Earl Grey is one of my favorite flavors. You get like a tiny little bit of milk and sugar in that, and you can get cream of Earl Grey. Oof, baby. Let's see. I started off with that, and then kind of going through life. My sister really liked tea, so I would go to David's Tea with her, and then found some that I liked, some that I didn't like. There's like the spice is right.
The spice is
it's
right.
It's super spicy, and I'm not really a fan. I like more want to just like chill and like have something like this in my mouth. And then recently I've been really liking Tim Hortons steeped tea, which is a combination of Earl Grey and orange pekoe tea.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so this is where I think we're going to start off with our differences. So I have a very different experience with tea. So like as a kid, I'm Latino, and we grew up drinking coffee. Like coffee's like I'm pretty sure I was maybe like 3, probably like 3 when I had my first like cup of coffee, I guess, like sip of coffee, I guess. And then from there, we wound up being like that's the drink of choice, right? Like so, like in my household, morning cup of coffee. If you're home, you have like an afternoon cup of coffee, and then there's the evening cup of coffee, right? So the coffee is a household drink. Tea, I never really got into tea, and I never really tried to get into tea, but I had a couple buddies in high school that were big tea people, and they knew I didn't like tea. And I remember it would have been probably the summer of 2011. We went on like a tea exploration. Like they kept giving me tea after tea after tea, different like flavors and all sorts, and I just didn't like it. Like I couldn't get behind it, man. Like we tried so many, like because we tried like fruity teas, we tried like I guess black teas, like different kind of like that. Like we didn't have the David's tea wasn't at the mall yet, so there wasn't a whole lot of variety. Mm-hmm. And I remember every single one I tasted, I just didn't like. And then we'd be like fooling around because it was just kind of having it straight. Then it was like cream, sugars, and stuff like that. Nothing. And I was basically convinced that I wasn't gonna ever like tea. And then, yeah, then I did like that was like had that experimental summer. Didn't have it for like, I guess the whole high school career. And then it was actually your sister that kind of got me into them, right? Like, what are the odds, right?
Yeah. Same
so
person.
Like, yeah, so she's got, like, it's almost like the second phase, we become friends, and then, like, the second phase of, like, the experimenting, right? And I never got into it. But then I got a green tea, not green tea, what's it called? London Fog. Mm-hmm. I can't remember where I got it. She either made it for me, or you either made it for me, or one of you guys made it for me, and I liked it.
Remember you told me, I think I made it for you, and you told me, dude, I don't like tea. And I was like, just try it, bro.
Anyway, yeah, so I try it, and like it's life-changing. Your sister to this day will say it's not a real tea drink because it's like very creamed, and I'm like, all right, fair enough. But like I've stuck religiously with that one, and whenever I do drink a tea, I guess that's my tea of choice. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten to the point where now I know where the best ones are located. So for me, I absolutely love the Tim Hortons London Fog. Mm-hmm. And then I think it was last year my buddy bought me one from Cuppers. Mm-hmm. That one was really good too, so that one's up there too.
You should try. I went to Sonder a few times.
Yeah.
And they have the blue matcha London Fog.
I had that one.
Holy.
Oh, I have that one. Cool. I haven't saved it on my phone just because I thought it was such a beautiful photo.
Oh,
it was good. That's a really good one. Yeah. But yeah, so I've tried those ones, and I'm just like, so that was my starting point, and I stuck with that for like probably couple years with it, and then have slowly experimented with like other types of teas. There's certain fruity ones that I really like, and I'm not gonna lie, I like this one. This one has like a nice like bold taste to it. Kind of has like a similar profile to coffee.
Can I try yours? Mine might be a little bit watered down.
Yeah, fair enough. Here you go, bro. But yeah, so that's my experience. Like that's my whole experience with tea. It's good, eh? I like it. I like it black. So I don't know what Cody was talking about when it came with like cream and sugar. I like it that way. Like it really reminds me of a coffee profile. So. Yeah, I don't know. I think you're onto something, Cody. You might have convinced me on becoming a little bit more of a tea guy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's my experience. That's my experience with tea. It's like it's relatively new, I guess. I guess not so much now. It's basically like a decade ago since I've been experimenting with it, but never grew up with it. Never even had like the desire to try it until later on.
Funny thing about like different levels of like tea, like addiction or whatever. There's like you being introduced and like kind of like weaning yourself in, and there's me, like I've kind of always had it around but like never been like my drink of choice. Like I always do like enjoy coffee or like hot chocolate. I do like my teas now a lot, but Shelby's boyfriend his family's British, and I went there for Christmas, and holy damn, like
they go hard.
I got up in the morning, they're like, would you like some tea? And I was like, you know what, yeah. And they just like make it perfectly. And I was like, damn, okay. And then like 3 hours later, you want some tea? I'm like, sure. I just kind of thought, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to let this like fly. Like whatever they want, I'm going to do it because why not?
Why not?
Like, let's see how much tea they drink in a day. And like, they were drinking like probably twice as much as me in that one day. And I was like, dude. And like, they would offer and I'd say yes. And then, would you like me to drink your beer or tea? I'm like, tea? Why not? And so, yeah, I drank more cups of tea in the 2 days that we were there than I have in like a long time. And it put me back onto tea. And then some of my coworkers, they were always ordering steep teas. And I was like, I'll get like a French vanilla from Tim's because like I can't drink their coffee. It hurts my stomach. And then I was like, what's that drink you guys always get? They're like, steep tea. I'm like, steep tea, really original. Like, everything's steep tea, right?
Right.
But it's the orange pico and the Earl Grey, and it's just like magnificent.
Magnificent.
Changed my world.
Chef's kiss.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
It tastes like this. It's just less nutty.
Less nutty. I might have to give it a shot one of these days.
I haven't had it black though, so maybe we have to try that next time.
We'll have to fool around with it. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll have another topic on tea or something, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So, anyways, in regards to the research that I did in our 7 minutes, I found from my research the story of how tea began in China, and like it's old. Like there's like a legend to it. So it's according to legend in 2737 BC, the Chinese Emperor Shen Nuing was like sitting beneath a tree while his servant boiled drinking water when some leaves from the tree blew into the water. And then this emperor, a renowned herbalist, decided to try the infusion that his servant had accidentally created. And apparently that's the legend of how tea was founded.
Yeah, I read something similar to that. I said it was like said discovered in 2737 BC. And they said that they used it originally as an antidote to poisonous herbs, because like this dude was a renowned herbalist, and so he found that, and he like wanted to try it, and so he tried it on some things, and it was like more of like an antidote. Oh, it's like, that's really cool.
It's really interesting.
It's really old. Like the discovery of tea was like
freaking long time ago,
4,750 years ago. Like, dang,
that was a long time. Yeah, I read that too. I was like, wow. All right.
Yeah,
I guess what's happening. Well, I mean, yeah, fair enough. That does make sense. It would be like, I guess, like some sort of like medicine. I mean, like, I know I definitely do drink a lot more tea when I'm sick.
Well, like, it's got some crazy like health benefits. Like, I was reading that it helps with stress, cardiovascular health. It helps with detoxing, like just if you feel a little bit like not great and you just want to get the toxins out of your bloodstream, tea is the way.
Tea is the way.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was cool. I thought that little history was pretty sweet. Yeah, and then moving on from there, I got a little bit more information on like how it slowly made its like, because like like when you think tea, predominantly you're thinking the British, right? So I kind of found like a little bit of history on how, like, I guess how the development of tea became very popular in England. So in here it states that like Europe as a whole was like, I guess, lagging behind in like the search of the tea, right? So like China explodes, and in the Far East, tea is also very big, right? And then it slowly started to get like spread towards Europe through ships, and they nicknamed them tea clippers. I thought that was fascinating. Clippers, a ship. I thought it was interesting too. The only reason it caught my attention was Clippers, the Clippers, well, yeah. LA Clippers, and yeah, named after a boat. So there's a boat, T-boat, right?
T-boat. Sounds like a football player.
T-boat Samuels.
Tim T-boat.
Team T-boat. Anyways, yeah. So Europe was lagging behind in this, and then in the latter half of the 16th century, there are like brief mentions of tea as drinks among Europe. So it became popular amongst the Portuguese who were living in the East as traders and missionaries, right? So of course they, like, it's usually what happens, right? Like someone comes along, and then you like kind of get used to the culture of the environment, or like whatever's like being made to drink or eat, whatever, and then you're like, this is awesome, I'm gonna bring it back, kind of thing, right? And although like these are like individual cases, even though like they were like some of the first to try it from Europe, and it's believed that they brought back samples, they actually aren't like the first ship to bring back tea like for commercial import. Do you want to guess who is the actual like nation that brought tea into as like an import into Europe?
India?
No. It's a European country.
Really?
Yeah.
Who?
The Dutch.
Nice.
The Dutchmen, man. Yeah, so they know, like, it was done by the Dutch, who in the last years of the 16th century began to encroach on Portuguese trade routes. And then by the turn of the century, they established a trading port on the island of Java. I thought that was interesting. Java is usually like what people call like coffee, right?
Yeah.
And it winds up being like the island that transport, like, that tea came across through. And it was via Java that in 1606 the first consignment of tea was shipped from China to Holland.
Interesting. Okay.
Like the Dutchmen, right?
Flying Dutchman.
The Flying Dutchman. I always thought it was the English that were the first ones.
Yeah.
And then, like, I was like, okay, well, I mean, Portuguese were there as well with the trade routes and stuff like that. But no,
the Dutch.
Our boys, the Dutch.
Speaking of like standards or things that have been, the British people drink 165 million cups of tea a day, which is ridiculous.
That's a lot of tea, man.
Damn. But Did you know that they aren't the people who drink the most tea?
Is it the originating? Would it be China?
No. You know who drinks the most tea? Like per capita?
Oh, per capita. No.
The Irish.
Really? No way. I would never guess that.
75% of their people drink tea daily. So, like, British people might have the population, but recently the British have actually lost 1/5 of their tea drinkers. Like, they just people stopped drinking tea or they died. I don't know.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, the Irish spend more time drinking tea
than the actual British.
The British do.
No way. I never would have thought that.
I was like, you think Ireland, you think like Scotland, you think both of them are like more like beer drinkers.
Well, especially Ireland, because like they're the guys that make Guinness, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, tea drinkers.
Tea drinkers. I mean, when they ran out of potatoes, you always had a nice cup of tea, I guess.
Amen, brother.
Amen, brother. Yeah, anyways, so from like that, okay, like going back to the Dutch, so that was 1606, so like the first like consignment of it, right?
Yeah.
Tea soon became a fashionable drink among the Dutch, and from there spread to the other countries in continental Western Europe, but because of its high price, it remained a drink for the wealthy, right? Because I mean, it's getting imported all the way over there.
Fun fact about the wealthy. Did you know that the people who were, rich and posh, they pronounce tea tay?
That's funny. That's actually, well, I mean, I think that's funny too, because that's how because in Spanish we pronounce tea te.
Tay. But like T-A-Y. Tay.
Tay. So tay instead.
So it's a little bit more like Y-y, I guess.
Like a classier.
Yeah, it's
I.
like I'm so renowned and reformed.
Reformed. Love that. But yeah, I don't know. I always thought tea is a fancy drink too. Honestly, like for instance, like going back on like my culture kind of thing. Like coffee is like in abundance in like Latin America, right? So it's like the cheap drink. And then for me, growing up, I was like, because we never had tea, and I was always like, tea must be like more expensive than coffee or like fancier than coffee or whatever, right? So like to me, I've always thought it was kind of fancy. And then I think of like the English, and when I think of the English, I think of those like upper class, like fancy royal Englishmen, right? So that makes sense, I guess. It would be a wealthy, like a drink known for the wealthy, right? And I mean, especially at the time because it was expensive.
Yeah,
right.
It's true. That's interesting. Did you know that all tea comes from the same plant? Doesn't matter what flavor. If it is like coming from a leaf, it's the same plant. It's just based off of the amount of air oxidization and like a few other things, but like mainly the amount of time it's been in the air oxidizing.
Interesting. It's the same plant. It's kind of like coffee, I guess, as well, right?
Yeah, it's just like different roast.
Yeah, like a different roast of coffee kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or like different soils, like change the flavoring profile or whatever, right? Or like different regions or so on. Okay.
Yeah.
I never knew that. I totally thought it was like a bunch of different plants, I guess.
It's like, man, I really want that European leaf.
That'll
get me that Earl Grey.
Earl Grey, baby.
Yeah, it was like super weird thinking like, I just think of, you got like your yellow label tea, which is like very vastly different from like, green tea? Like, you have green tea Arizona's and you're like, okay, yeah, it tastes like green tea. But then you drink Earl Grey and it's like super dark and you're like, what the heck?
Oh, like this?
Yeah.
It's like super nutty and like dark as well. Interesting. What was the plant? Do you know what the plant was called?
It's a plant that is native to Asia. Everywhere else it's not. Like, it's not.
So tea is still, like to this day, is still imported from China.
Yeah, like, and if not, like, they're probably growing it in like greenhouses.
In greenhouses or stuff like that.
But yeah, it's native to Asia, and then everyone else just adopted it. So it's like an invasive species almost.
Yeah, so like similar, like very identical to coffee. Where it like started in one place, now you have like Ethiopia, Colombia, and like different regions that make it, but it's all the same plant.
Exactly.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. All right, now let's get to our British boys, because we've been talking a lot about everyone else minus our homies that were known for their tea drinking. You want to know when the first reference of tea was in England? So it took place September 1658, and then it was an advertisement in a London newspaper by, I can't even say this guy's name, Mercurius Politicus. That was a newspaper, I think. Yeah, it was a newspaper. And it announced that China drink called by the Chinese Tcha.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how it says. It's Tcha.
Yeah.
And then by other nations as Tay, alias T, two E's and then an apostrophe. It was on sale at a coffee house in Sweeting's Rent in the city. Sweeting's Rents. But that was like the first like dated reference of like tea like in England.
I found 2 other names for it. How would you say something with a line over an O?
No idea.
Okay, so I'm just going to try. The first one was called Sado.
Sado?
And then the second one was Chatto.
Sado.
So yeah, this is S-A-D and the O with a line over.
Do you think chai would come from Chatto?
Maybe.
No?
I think those are just the 2 names that they had for...
Do you know where the origins were?
That one is in Japan.
Okay. Cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I thought that was cool because you brought up Tay, and then like by other nations it was Tay, and the alias T, and then T what at that time was spelled E with an apostrophe, and then Chinese it was like Cha. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's interesting, like a variety of different names for the same drink.
And the same leaf, pretty much.
Yeah, same everything, right, kind of thing. Well, I guess it's like kind of like coffee, where like you have like a bunch of little nicknames for coffee, right? Like coffee, Java,
mocha,
poop juice.
The diuretic of the century.
There you go, the diuretic of the century. But yeah. Now, do you want to know why tea became so popular in England?
Why?
All right, I got you right here. So it was the marriage of Charles II and Catherine of Braganza that was like the turning point in the history of tea in Britain. That like what led to like the popularity of tea in Britain. So Catherine was Portuguese. She was a Portuguese princess, and she was a tea addict. She loved tea, and it makes sense, right? The Portuguese, so she probably like something happened where they got tea, and then she like loved it. And it was her love of tea that established it as a fashionable beverage in the UK. So at first, like, became very popular in the court. So of course, we're all like the top, like upper class of it was.
I just imagine like this like one person sitting there with their like fine china, just stirring their tea, and then there's like the jester, like whatever, of like the court or whatever, and there's like just sitting there, and she's like, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And he's like, "What is that?" He sips it. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" And he like goes to his family. He's like, "Okay, I know I was gonna buy a house, but I bought tea instead." And like there's like this like
I was gonna buy a house.
There's like an epidemic of tea just because this one dude is like giving a sip of her tea or something.
Yeah, this one princess is like letting everyone know that's tea. I think it's funny because I feel like that's how I roll with pupusas with all you guys that are like of Canadian descent. Like we literally like make them like I spread them to the masses and so forth. Like a pretty good batting average when it comes to people liking after they try it, right?
It's like I just think of like when you did that. It's like Jesus and the feeding the 5,000. It's like David just like walks in, has this, and like feeds a bunch of people. Everyone's filled. David leaves, comes back with more. It's like, holy crap, how'd you do that?
Right? Yeah, fair enough. I mean, like that's what it is. That's what it feels like. So I'm guessing that's kind of how that experience was. Like you kind of got to try it, and they fell in love with it, and it kind of spread from there. Because from the court, then eventually, it spread amongst the wealthy classes as a whole, kind of thing. And then I guess to this point now, it's just a very common drink over there, and then like a very common like global drink, anyways, right? But yeah, so that's how like the UK became very known for their like tea drinking. Started with this one tea addicted Portuguese princess.
Heck yeah.
There we go.
It's funny that you say like it was such a popular thing, and then you go to like Tim Hortons or McDonald's, and like their teas are now cheaper than coffee.
Than the coffees.
As like almost a preferable drink. And did you know that tea next to water is the most drinked liquid in the world?
Whoa.
So like water's the most, tea's the second most. 2. Yeah.
No way.
I was like, so we gotta get going on the number 2 drink if we want to keep going.
It all started way back when some leaves fell into this guy's boiling water.
Yeah, back in 2737.
There we go, just like that. All right, I got a last fun fact for you before I run out of stuff to talk about. Perfect. Tea. So capitalizing on this whole craze that like the UK fell under, right? The East India Company. This probably sounds like a pretty common name, hey?
Yeah, the East India Trading Company.
So the East India Company began to import tea into Britain. Its first order being placed in 1664
Dang.
for 100 pounds of China tea to be shipped from Java.
Interesting. That's quite a while ago still.
It was a long time. Yes.
It took like what, 27 took like 4,000 years to get to Britain. So the British were a little behind on the spin, but
behind on it, but now look at them capitalizing and then losing their place to the Irish.
Yeah, that was weird. Yeah, there was like the thing saying that they might lose their number one spot, and then they did. Like 2 different like articles I read, and I was like, dang.
Dang, dude. Gotta pump up those numbers over there.
Yeah. Did you know that 7% of people that drink tea are so picky that they have to do it themselves because they're scared someone's gonna mess it up?
I've heard that.
Yeah.
Now I want to know. I don't know how much you know about like I guess the British people that you knew, but like are they very particular when it came to their tea?
From what I experienced, I could make Dan tea, but his parents I didn't want to try, and then they were saying that they are very particular about it.
Okay.
And Dan knows how to make their tea properly, and he knows how to make his tea properly.
Right.
But like it's like a tried and true method that like they know.
Probably like spans generations kind of thing.
Exactly, and like I was not willing to get any. Like I've made him tea like when he's at my house. I'm like, oh yeah, here's a cup of tea, and then I would give him like the cream and sugar for everything, and so that was all on him. So I only like brewed the tea.
That's
I didn't
crazy.
even.
And this is just like a stat for the UK, like that every like UK.
I think
people?
that was just in general.
general?
Like, people who are like drinking tea, like 7% will not let like if someone's making tea.
Right.
Like obviously, if you go to Tim Hortons, you're expecting to get less good
Quality,
grade tea
yeah.
than if you were to make it at your own house and like make it
That's
properly.
Fair. That's what I was about to like think of. Like that's what I was thinking of was like these people would probably prefer to do it by themselves, and then they wouldn't be like people that go out to go get it.
Exactly. So like most of the, like 7% are like mainly at home drinkers for sure.
That's fair. That's wild.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see. Oh my god! I kind of want Dan to make me a cup of tea so I can have it the proper way. I feel like
It's good.
we're very much lacking in the proper way of making this stuff.
Just David's tea little drainer.
Little drainer and then like little tins of it.
Did you look into anything about tea ceremonies?
I didn't. All my
history?
research is just the history of like figuring out where this stuff came from and like how it became so popular in the UK.
So like I didn't get a whole lot on tea ceremonies. I kind of started at like the 2-minute mark.
Fair enough.
But like I was like, what do they mean? Like, what is the meaning behind it? Because like there's like some kind of meaning behind it. Like that's why it's a ceremony, right?
Right.
So I was like, there's got to be something. They represent 4 different things: purity, tranquility, respect, and harmony.
Wow.
And if you're gonna do a tea ceremony, it's like a crap ton of preparation. I was looking at how to do a tea ceremony, and it gave like the 11 steps to do a good tea ceremony. But the preparation for each step was like insane. Like you need to have everything right. The tea leaves have to be proper. The water has to be at a perfect temperature, and like you have to hold it a certain way. I was kind of browsing fast, but like it's like so particular about it. Like that is like this is neat how you have to clean a room and it needs to be spotless. It's like you need to make this tea perfectly, and it's crazy. And like the way that you like wear your kimono is like this way, and you have it this side over this. Like dang, and yeah. So that's all I found on that, but it was like super particular,
So very particular,
and like very like spiritual and
right.
and healing when you're doing the ceremony.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's all I got.
What you got? Any closing remarks?
Drink tea.
Drink tea. I got a closing remark for both of you. Okay, so the one thing that really picked up my interest in tea now that I think about it, now that we've just constantly been like talking about tea this whole time, and it's a tea that I really want to try. I don't think they have it in Canada, because I know my sister has also really wanted to try it. She's a big tea drinker in the fam, and she's looked for it and hasn't found it. But in Avatar: The Last Airbender, there's a character in it named Iroh, and he's big tea guy, right? Like it's
Yeah.
like it's the whole premise of like the show almost. It's like he's really known
His
for his
only
tea.
reason is like a little bit of a mentor and just
Yeah, right. Like
tea.
mentor and tea. Like that's like he's known as that crazy. Like he's the tea addict that all does other stuff. But like the tea thing really sticks out. It's like very like predominant in his character, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tea he drinks in the series, I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's called jasmine tea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like goes hard in jasmine tea.
Jasmine tea is really good.
And I've never had it. I don't know where to find it.
I had a jasmine London fog from the coffee company at the uni.
Okay, yeah, because I want because I want to try, because like the way he talks about it and the way it's always like referencing like throughout the whole series, it was like I want to try jasmine.
It tastes
tea.
like flowers.
That's what I've heard.
But it's really good.
Yeah. So that's like the one thing, and like I think the first time I watched the show was when it was still debuting, so it would have been like 2008 to like 2000 or 2006 to 2008 or whatever, right? And like ever since I was like I want to try it, and I remember like hunting it down, like trying to look for it, going to all these tea places that we have now, nothing. So I might have to just go to like some Asian like supermarket or something somewhere to find it, but that's the tea I've always wanted to try, and it's the tea I still haven't gotten my hands on yet. So hopefully in the near future, some way, somehow, I'm eventually going to have jasmine tea. But that is all I got for tea.
Sounds good.
All right.
Well, cheers.
Cheers. That was a fun little experience. I hope you guys enjoyed our first ever podcast, our little random chat. What was it? Zeke and Dak random chat podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably have some more episodes coming up in the near future. But yeah, fun little trial. Hope you guys enjoyed our talks about tea. And who knows, we will have some more fun random conversations in the near future.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Take care. Take care, everyone.